Hi, I'm Marcus with IndieMusicLab.com. So I remember back when I first started producing and mixing my own vocals, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how the heck a compressor actually worked. Like, how do I understood that, yeah, it kind of squashes it and gives it that punchier sound, but I didn't know how to truly use a compressor to make it sound like the artist I was hearing on Spotify. And so I thought, hey, why don't I make a tutorial explaining to my former self and also to you guys out there who maybe are just starting out or you have been producing for a while, you just haven't grasped the concept of all the different elements of what a compressor does and how to use it to get a really well-balanced and compressed vocal sound. So let's dive in and look at the 3 vocal compression truths you need to know. Vocal compression truth number 1 is not every compressor fulfills the same purpose. So let's say you're sitting in a mixing session with me and I reach for a compressor plugin. It shouldn't be immediately obvious to you why I reached for that plugin. Maybe I want to use that compressor to balance the volume of the vocal. Maybe I want to use it to add some punch to the vocal. Maybe I want to use it to add a de-esser to the vocal. The point is, compression is a very versatile effect, and you can use it in many different ways to achieve many different desired results. So real quick here, let's talk about the 5 primary purposes that a compressor serves for the vocals that I mix. Number 1 is volume balance. This is usually the first compressor that I pull in to add to my vocal chain. And what this does is, because of the natural dynamics of the recorded vocal, you have some parts like this and some parts like this. You want to, if this is the loud part and this is the quiet part, you want to rein that in to where there's less of that variation. You want it to be more consistent because you want that vocal to stay consistent throughout the mix so you don't lose it and then bring it back in. You want it to have that even sense of volume. Now, if the objective of your compressor is to balance out that volume, then you want a fast attack and a fast release. I usually go with the ratio around 4:1 and then just adjust the threshold until you're getting about 2 to 5 dB of gain reduction on those loud parts. The second primary role that a compressor plays is to add some glue and cohesion to the vocal. So for this style of compressor, you want a medium attack, medium release, and then have the ratio between 3:1 to 4:1, and then the gain reduction, adjust the threshold until you get the gain reduction to be between 3 to 5 or 6 dB. Now, the third purpose that a compressor can serve is to add punchiness to the vocal. Now, for this one, I like to experiment with analog style compressors. Waves has a bunch of good ones, Slate Digital, and even inside the DAW you use, you probably have a few analog style compressors. So if you're looking to add some punchiness to your vocal, add that analog style compressor with a fast attack and a medium release, and then aim for, I would say, anywhere between 3 dB all the way up to even 8 to 10 dB if you really want a punchy rock kind of vocal sound. Now, the fourth rule that a compressor can play is by using it as a sidechain on delay and reverb channels. So what I'll often do is set up my delays and my reverbs on return tracks or effects channels, and then by having those on a separate channel that I can send different tracks to, like my vocal, I can then put a sidechain compressor on those channels. That way, whenever the vocal is performing, the delay or the reverb channel ducks down in volume, and then as soon as there's a break in the phrasing of the vocal, that delay channel pops right back up to its normal volume. So that way it doesn't get too cluttered. And then finally, the fifth primary purpose that I use compression for on vocals is as a de-esser. So you can use filter settings which come along with a lot of these stock compressors. I use Studio One, and you can adjust the filter to only compress when it's in that 5K range and up, when it passes that threshold and you get those T's and those S's, and then it shoots it down, which is exactly what a de-esser does. So all of that is encapsulated in truth number 1, which is, again, not every compressor fulfills the same purpose. Vocal compression truth number 2 is compression is not a one-size-fits-all. The same compression settings that can make an alt rock or a really punchy pop vocal sound fire, using those exact settings on, say, a chill ambient indie track, it's going to sound like absolute garbage. So when it comes to compression, you really want to serve the song, serve the vocal as an individual entity, if you will, where you just change your approach if you need to on every track and just make sure that your vocal and the compression on it works for that particular song. Here's an example of a chill ambient style vocal and how not to use compression on it. Alright, one more truth to get to. Before we do that though, I want to let you know about my free guide. It is my brand new indie vocals compression guide. This is just a free PDF that you can download and get a really quick understanding, and you'll be able to use this as a reference point for if you're working on your vocal. How should I go about compressing it? I show you visually as well, what do these compression moves look like, what should my ratio be, and my threshold, and my attack and release, and all that stuff. You'll get it laid out for you in PDF form, so you can print it out if you so please, and just have it right next to you to have as a guide and help you not feel confusion and get some clarity on your vocals that you're compressing. So download that, link is in the description. It's 100% free. All right, let's move on to truth number 3. All right, vocal compression truth number 3 is compression plugins aren't the only form of compression. You may never have thought of this, but compression is actually a concept before it's a plugin. The definition of compression, obviously, is to compress the signal, right? So instead of having this much variation, you have this much variation. So with compression in mind as a concept and not just a plugin that you pull in, what are some other plugins and some other effects that also serve that purpose of compressing the signal? The answer is distortion and saturation plugins. Free plugins like Saturation Knob or any distortion plugin that you might have stock inside of your DAW, those can work incredibly well to add some nice grit and yes, compression to your vocal tracks. Here's an example of one of my vocal tracks with the saturation turned off and then turned on. So, in summary, the 3 vocal compression truths you need to know are: number 1, not every compressor fulfills the same purpose; number 2, compression isn't a one-size-fits-all; and number 3, compression plugins aren't the only form of compression. Alright, now before you go, be sure to check out my free Indie Vocals Compression Guide. This is really going to help you to get an understanding and to have a reference that you can follow and get some clarity on what you should be doing when it comes to the compression settings, and I show you visually what these settings look like, and it's really going to help you out to get rid of that confusion and that vagueness of like, I don't know what to do, so I guess I'll just guess. This guide will help alleviate that and really get you started understanding and getting better at compressing your vocals in a professional manner. So link is in the description. It's 100% free, so be sure to check it out. Thank you so much for watching, my friend. I will see you in the next video. Bye.